Hello, and welcome to the No Sleep Theater. Tonight we bring to you a double feature of chilling tales from the twisted minds of Jacob Dandridge and our very own D.B. Keebler. From the deepest caverns of the ocean to the darkest corners of the forest, there are many creatures that have yet to be seen by man. Creatures that could be as cute and cuddly as a newborn puppy, or as vicious as a wolverine. Maybe even lurking in your walls, there's a creature that has yet to be discovered. If you like tonight's video, make sure to hit the like and to subscribe after you check to make sure the house is empty. 4 Strange Little Creatures by D.B. Keebler. I flipped over onto my right side. I laid there for several minutes. That's not right. I tried my back. The fan was blowing directly on my face, cooling me where the drops of sweat rolled down every few minutes. The house was so quiet. I wasn't used to the absence of sound, just the hum of the fan and the distant crickets. Normally, I would be hearing the rhythmic breathing of my wife next to me and the soft snores from my son's room. Tonight it was different. We had been invited on an impromptu trip to the coast with my in-laws, but I was unable to get the time off of work. Not wanting to be a wet blanket, I urged my wife to go and take our son along with them. He would have a blast playing in the sand. Plus, we were having an unusually hot summer, and it was at least 20 degrees cooler at the coast. There was no reason for all of us to be miserable. I couldn't remember the last time they had both been away overnight. I let out a soft, sarcastic chuckle at the thought of trying to get any sleep. It had been 2 nights now. I don't know if it was the heat or the absence of their sounds or the combination of both, but I needed rest. I would drift off for what seemed like a few moments at a time, but no real rest. I would feel my eyes start to droop again. Maybe I'll stay asleep this time. Then I hear a sound coming from my son's room. I flip back onto my side.
Fucking rat.
My son's pet rat, Jigglypuff, named after his favorite Pokemon. Couldn't really be mad at him for getting some water, but it still didn't stop me from cursing him under my breath. That reminded me that I needed to take care of his cage while they were gone. He really was a good rat. I started drifting off to sleep thinking about him. It's a long story of how we got him, but he was an older rat that wasn't treated very well by his previous owners. He had become very attached to my son, and he was my son's first pet. He was so sad when Jigglypuff died. It happened just a few nights ago. Old age. That thought echoed through my head as my eyes shot back open.
What the fuck is making that sound?
Whatever it was, I wanted to see it and not scare it away. I crept out of bed as slowly and quietly as I could. I grabbed my cell phone off the nightstand and slowly tiptoed towards the hallway. I peered into my son's room at the rat cage. The door was open. I could vaguely see the shadows moving around inside of it. I inched forward, trying to make my eyes adjust better to see what was going on. When they did, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There were 4 weird little creatures playing around in the cage. They were each about the size of a large rat, but completely hairless. In the darkness, their skin had a gray tone, but who knows for sure. They seemed to walk on all 4s and had no identifiable head. They were a straight, thin back with 4 legs, and at the bottom of those legs were tiny human hands. One of them was mounted on the water bottle with its stomach pressed against the tip. Was that where its mouth was? The other 3 were climbing all over the wire walls. I took another step forward and fumbled with the flashlight on my phone. When I finally turned it on and pointed it towards the cage, they were gone. Maybe I had just imagined them. Maybe I was asleep the whole time. I walk over to the cage and close the door, and that's when I hear them shift around inside. I dart forward to shut the door, but I'm too late. I hear them skitter across the cage and even feel one of them jump off of my arm like a springboard as I slammed the door shut and twisted the lock. Out of the corner of my eye, I see one of them dart through a shadow and then disappear again as it ran under the hall nightlight.
You just can't see these things in the light.
I said to no one in particular. I feel my sleep deprivation getting to me. I decided not to fight any of the information my eyes have just taken in. I will just accept that there were a quartet of weird headless creatures playing in my son's late pet rat's cage. Seems legit. I'm probably sleeping anyways. I go into my son's closet and take out a butterfly net that has been sitting there gathering dust since its one-time use.
It's this baby's time to shine.
I giggle to myself, thinking about what I'm using this children's toy for. I turn off all the lights in the house and wait for my eyes to adjust to the dark.
The hunter must remain vigilant and pay attention to their surroundings at all times, especially when going after prey as stealthy as the human-handed creeper.
This seems like the funniest thing in the world, and I start laughing so hard my sides hurt. I take a step forward and feel a wet squish under my bare feet. I look down in the dark and see one little hand sticking out between my toes, almost as if it was waving at me. That's one down.
This little soldier deserves a burial at sea.
I hobble over to the bathroom and wipe the bottom of my foot with a wad of toilet paper and toss it in the toilet. I tiptoe back into the hall.
Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting rabbit.
I burst out laughing again. I find it so hilarious I fall to my knees holding my sides. Up ahead, at the end of the hall, I see another one. It's just standing there staring at me. Or at least I would say it was staring at me if it had a head. I choke up on the butterfly net.
What are you looking at, ugly?
I dart forward on my knees, stretching my arms forward as far as they will reach, holding the butterfly net out, praying it will land on top of the creature, all the while laughing like a lunatic. I crawl forward to see if I had caught my prey. I see one half of it jutting out from under the rim of the net. I lift it up and see the net cut it clean in half.
Another one bites the dust.
I pick up the two pieces of the tiny monster and toss in the toilet from a distance.
That'll be 3 points.
I sat in the hall for what may have been hours, gripping the butterfly net. It was my son's, but now I think of it as mine.
We've been through a lot together.
I say as I look at it fondly. I start thinking about the absurdity of the situation I'm currently in and start giggling again. As soon as the laughs start to escape my mouth, I hear the tapping sound I've grown to know as the footsteps of the human-handed creeper. I glance to my left, and on the wall next to my head is number 3. I was not expecting it from that angle and jumped straight to my feet. The pole of my butterfly net tangled in my legs. I didn't want to risk losing it, so I shot my hands out to the wall and cupped them over the creature. I held them in place, trapping against the wall, feeling it thrash against my palms. I tried to finagle the net back into my hands using my feet, but suddenly the creature stopped. I tried moving my hands around a bit, but it just laid limp against them. I let go and watched it drop to the floor.
Remind me not to buy stock in these fucks. They don't last worth a damn.
I toss the limp body into the toilet and flush. I spend the next hour tearing the house apart looking for number 4. I make sure to be extra thorough, and I cut through every single pillow and cushion in the house, ripping out their stuffing. When that turned up nothing, I removed every light bulb and broke them open. Still nothing. I'm about to go through all the cereal boxes and other dry goods when it suddenly struck me how silly I was being. I just needed to get some sleep. The creature is either gone, or he was never here in the first place. I took a look over at the clock on the microwave and see it read 4:17 a.m.
Fuck this. There is no way I'm going to be able to function at work.
I dig my cell phone out of my pocket and dial my company's voicemail.
I'm sorry. I'm not gonna be able to make it in today. I haven't slept in 2 days, and I just spent the night chasing little gray monsters around my house with a butterfly net. But don't worry, I'll be back tomorrow.
I feel a sense of relief as I walk back towards my bed, knowing that I can sleep in and not have to worry about going into work. I softly chuckled to myself about how absurd I was being as I lay back and closed my eyes. I feel myself start to drift off to sleep, and I welcome its warm embrace. There's a noise. It's that clicking, rattling sound again. My eyes pop open, and I head into my son's room. And there it is, number 4. He was still inside the rat cage. I must have caught him inside when I slammed it shut. I peered at it through the wire bars of the cage. It reaches one of its legs out through the bars and opens its hand palm up. It reaches towards my own hand and begins to stroke it. It has been 3 nights since I found the human-handed creeper. I haven't bothered going into work or sleeping. I've been too busy playing with my new friend. If anyone can help me identify what he is, I would love to know more about his species. I've tried feeding him a variety of different foods, but the only thing he seems to eat is raw hamburger. I would really like to know if I have other options for food. He seems to be very affectionate. He loves to make me laugh. When I let him out of his cage, he jumps onto my shirt and crawls up to my face and sleeps there. He will also sometimes emit a hissing, gurgling noise that seems to mean he's happy, almost like a cat's purr. Currently, I'm trying to teach him some tricks as quickly as I can. Tomorrow is the day my wife and son come back home, and I can't wait to see the look on my son's face when he sees his new pet. Before we move on to tonight's final story, a reminder that if you're enjoying this video, to like and to subscribe. The Gas Station Off the Interstate by Jacob Dandridge. My headlights shine onto the highway in front of me. They're the only lights in the dark, desolate interstate. My gas light turns on, but there hasn't been a gas station for damn near 2 hours. Actually, I haven't seen much of anything. No trucks, other cars, rest areas, even farmhouses. This highway seems void of life itself. All that's visible is the never-ending darkness which surrounds me just outside my windows. I change my radio from station to station, but all that's audible is static. Frustrated, I aggressively turn off the radio. The dashed white lines on the highway become blurry and I let my foot off the gas pedal just a little, bringing the car down to a slow 50 miles per hour. I drift off for just a second and swerve onto the shoulder. The bumps on it, which have been so tactfully placed, startle me awake. I look down at the digital glowing green clock that's just above the AC vent, which blows softly on my face. The clock reads 3:10. I readjust my positioning and give my body a good shake. My attempt at waking up is of no avail. My eyelids become heavy, but I widen them and force them to remain like that until they ache. My vision is blurry, and I squint, which works just for a short while. On the horizon, I see what looks to be a saving grace, a tall neon green sign. Its glow is highly visible, even to my tired eyes. Suddenly, I'm alive again. I can smell and taste a sweet cup of hot coffee now. In my weary state, I may drink an energy shot as well. My headlights shine upon the exit sign. I change lanes and put my foot down, accelerating to a fast 80 miles per hour. I exit the highway and zip into the parking lot. The gas station's exterior is made up of dark red bricks. They're stained and weathered. The silver tin roof hangs just by a thread. It's run down and appears abandoned. The flashing open sign hanging in the door says otherwise. Behind it is a fenced-off junkyard filled with an assortment of rusted old cars. A little reluctant because of its appearance, I make my way into the entrance. A soft bell rings as I open the door and step inside.
Be right with ya.
A rather unpleasant voice calls from the back. I shake my head and begin to search through the shelves for munchies. There's only 2 aisles and they're so close together that I have to walk down them sideways. I inch along scanning each item and there isn't much of a selection. Stepping out of the aisles, I feel less smothered and relieved at the same time. I stop in front of a single standing cooler which is against the back corner wall. Its contents are nearly bare except a couple half gallons of milk, a gallon of calcified water, and a lone energy drink. Unfortunately, not a Monster, Rockstar, or any other preferred brand of mine. It's a red can with just the word energy plastered across it.
Great.
I say quietly to myself as I turn and make my way back to the front. Maybe there's coffee, but I'm starting to highly doubt that. I can only be so lucky. I approach the counter and I'm met by the clerk who leans against the counter. He smiles and reveals most of his teeth are missing. The remaining ones are completely rotted and hang loosely from his charred gums. His beard is stubbly and dirty. He scratches his yellow skin. The name tag on his shirt reads Leonard. I survey the area one more time before asking him about coffee.
We ain't sell coffee. I do got something else that may wake ya.
My morbid curiosity peaks. Anything to make it back to my wife is worth it to me.
Yeah, like what?
My ears perk up as I wait for his response.
Wait here.
He whispers to me as if somebody else is listening. I watch with anticipation as he limps to the back. My bowels twist and my throat is froggy as I try breathing to relax. As silently as I can, I clear my throat and take a big gulp. What's taking him so long? This is a bad idea. Who knows what he's getting? Talking myself out of whatever I've gotten into, I turn to head for the door.
Where you going?
I hear Leonard call out in disappointment from behind me. With heavy guilt, I turn towards him and walk back to the counter.
Nowhere. I was just getting some fresh air.
I come up with the lamest trivial lie I could think of. I didn't want to tell him the truth or upset him, or tip him off that he was taking too long. The lie I came up with didn't help things either.
The air I got ain't fresh enough.
I can hear the eggshells crunching under my feet as I take another step forward. My throat tightens, and the air in which we speak of becomes constricted.
I...
Relax, boy, I'm just joshing with ya.
He broke into a fit of laughter, a sort of sinister laugh. It sends shivers down my spine, and the hairs on my neck stand up to point. He stops after a moment and signals me to come closer.
Don't be afraid, I ain't got no teeth to bite ya.
I cautiously step all the way to the counter as if being pulled by some force. He slaps his hand down in a way that I know something is under it. But what? He slides it across to me. I move my eyes downwards and discover it's a bag of white glass shards. Crystal meth, to be exact.
What the fuck?
I scream angrily.
Hell yeah, this'll keep you up.
Even though I stood by with discord about his proposition, the thought did enter my mind of seeing my wife. I mean, what could it hurt, right? I had done it back in college for a stint to get through big exams and long night studies. It has been so long since I've seen her, and I still had another 12 hours to go.
No thanks, man.
I tell him with disgust. I hurry back to my car. I start my car. It quickly sputters and dies. I try restarting it. Nothing. It's completely dead. I pop the hood and look under it, checking to see if anything seems out of place. From the little knowledge I have, everything appears normal. I rush back in the rundown gas station, and Leonard is still standing unmoved from the spot he was when I left.
My car. It won't start. Do you know anything about cars?
Thing or two. I could take a gander.
His answer is unsettling my nerves. He grabs a flashlight on our way out. The parking lot is lit by an overhead street light that is nearly burned out and the neon sign that drew my attention earlier. His magnum light illuminates the whole engine. He scans it with the light, carefully looking over every inch.
Well, it's a mystery.
You mean you can't fix it?
Sure can. You can hang around with me as long as you like.
He shuts the hood and looks at me with his beady eyes. He smiles and chuckles. How the hell am I supposed to get out of here? I can't even recall what town this is. Even if I did, help is still hours and hours away from me. In this moment, I feel completely alone, hopeless, and literally stuck.
Come on, boy. I'll take you around back and you can use the phone.
He starts walking back across the parking lot towards the gas station.
I've got one.
I pull out my phone and flash it to him.
Alright then, suit yourself. I'll be around back if you need anything.
I watch as the creep limps around the building and out of sight. I dial 411 and get information for the local tow shop. 3 hours, the guy tells me as I hang up. 3 hours? They'll fly by like a breeze. Just a little time off the clock and then I'm back on the road to reconnect with my wife. I drunkenly lean against the driver's side door and drift off into a daydream-like trance, but am quickly brought out of it by the streetlight burning out. The gas station lights and the neon signs simultaneously turn off, and I am swallowed up by the complete darkness.
Shit.
The moon, which hangs above, shines down onto the area, illuminating everything faintly. My eyes take a moment to adjust. I turn to get into my car and hear a slimy slap against the red brick wall. I stiffen immediately and overcome with fear. I hold my breath and avoid being heard. I hear a slimy thing slide down the wall and splat onto the ground. I remain still, hoping whatever it is doesn't see me. It makes a mushy noise as it slides across the pavement. The sound of it gets fainter and fainter as it moves away from me. Once it's completely gone, I exhale the breath I had been holding in. I open my car door slowly and as silently as possible. I get in and shut it only partially to avoid the sound of it closing. Even though I'm inside what I consider my safe zone, my anxiety is high and my heart feels like it's going to leap out of my throat. I peer out of the windows nervously and survey the area as best I can. Due to my windows being tinted, the visibility I had outside has lessened and become practically nil. A woman's shriek echoes through the midnight air.
Please let this just be my imagination.
I tell myself, hoping I don't have to leap into action and help. A moment of silence passes as I keep my ear pressed to the window. She shrieks again, this time in excruciating pain. I let out a frustrated grunt. I have to help her. So, I go against my better judgment and get out of the car. I turn on the flashlight on my phone. The light shines just enough for me to see as I head towards the continuous screams. Once I enter the entrance of the junkyard, the surface of the ground is covered in a thick layer of dirt. A little wooden house no bigger than a shack rests at the other end. There's a brightly lit porch light on. Her screams, which sound like they're coming from the back, suddenly stop. On the ground in front of me is a puddle of an ink-like substance. It's black in color and thick like coughed-up mucus. I stepped over it and walk alongside the trail. As I approach the rickety house, I fear Leonard knows I heard the scream and will come out at any moment and find me. After all, he knows I've been in the front this entire time. I run and crouch beside an old pickup truck. I poke my head out by the bumper and look for him. There's no sign of him or the woman. The air is silent, and I feel like any sound I will make will travel eagerly. I wait. Suddenly, I hear the front door swing open and hit the wall. I peek my head out just enough to see Leonard stand on the porch, looking out. He holds a rifle down at his side. He's gonna kill me if he finds me. This is crazy. This crazy methed-out hillbilly is gonna shoot me. I hear him quickly approach. I prepare to tackle him, but he speedily walks past towards the front. Once he realizes I'm not there, he'll come looking. I stand and run into the house. I enter and it's a one-bedroom with a bathroom off the side. A queen-sized bed takes up most of the space. There's random items stacked throughout the place. I approach the desk and discover stacks of ID cards completely covering its surface. I pick a couple of them up, and their appearances vary dramatically. Some of them are senior citizens, both males and females. Others are young kids no older than 30. I toss them down and begin searching frantically through everything for something I could use as a weapon. A knife. I pick it up and hurry out back before he returns. There's a bright light which makes the entire area visible. I search for the woman, but there's only more cars and a pond directly in the center of them. The pond is a dirty brown color. Its surface ripples severely. Where had the woman gone? Could she be in the pond? The water begins bubbling in the center, and from it, a black tentacle, which is clearly over 6 feet, emerges stiffly. The light suction cups on it pulsate, like little sharp points trace around it. I turn to bolt, but am met by the cold tip of Leonard's rifle.
I see you met her.
He smiles menacingly.
Her? What the fuck is that thing?
His rifle is pressed into my forehead. I cower in fear. My legs tremble beneath me. He hits me over the head with the handle of the rifle. Everything goes black as I fall face first into the ground. I come to a short while later. The air is fuzzy for a moment while my vision returns to normalcy. I look up towards the night sky and try moving, but can't. I bring my focus down to my hands. They're bound together with a thick rope along with my feet. My body is directly next to the water. I wiggle my hands, attempting to slide loose from the rope, but fail.
That's a Boy Scout knot, son.
I hear Leonard call out from behind me. I tilt my head back and see he's leaned against his house, watching me. I grunt at him.
Help! Help!
I scream as loud as I can, even though I know nobody can hear me. The hope is what I hold on to. He reassures me of this as he makes his way to me.
It's feeding time.
He stands above me, smirking. He sticks his finger and thumb into his mouth and whistles. The water begins bubbling as if he has control over the thing. The bubbles creep closer to me, and once they're within a couple feet from where I lay, the head of a black squid emerges to the surface. It's a fucking squid, and not an average-looking squid. Its head is at least 7 feet wide and nearly 5 feet high. Its tentacle extends outward and flops down next to my leg. I scream in agonizing terror as it approaches. The squid raises itself above the water and tilts its head back. There's a circular mouth where its stomach should be, and it contains countless rows of razor-sharp teeth. Chunks of its last victim still hang from them. Leonard stares at his creature intensely and completely distracted. I take advantage of this and reach my arms back and tug at his leg, knocking him down to the dirt. The rifle flings from his hand. I crawl on top of him and drop a few blows to his face before he can fight back. He's dazed and stands up, wobbly. A tentacle wraps around his ankle and pulls him down to the ground. He screams for me to help him as he's pulled into the squid's grips and smothered before going under the water with his pet. I burst into a joyful cry. I crawl to my knife, which lays on the ground where I was knocked out, and free myself. I stand and run to the front where my car still sits, dead. I call the police, and they tell me it'll be a while before someone can reach me, so I decide to wait it out in my car patiently. Through the night, there have been a few times I could hear strange noises coming from somewhere in the dark. The sounds of suction cups against the brick wall.